Hello there, welcome to Riot Act Reviews. It's part of the Riot Act podcast. It's the show that we put out here at Riot Act where we hone down, we focus in on one album that is about to come out or has come out that we think is worth dedicating an entire show to. My name is Stephen Hill. Hello, hope you're all right. His name's Remfry Deadman. Been listening to a lot of you today, Remfry. Still got the old COVID, haven't you?
Still got the old COVID, yeah.
Still got the old COVID. Rocking the COVID. Me and Remfry were talking earlier about Danzig for a little bit. That's done now. That's out. I also listened to you, Remfry. Got a bone to pick with you, actually, Remfry.
Oh, right.
Got a bone to pick with you with your other podcast. You don't listen to me, do you? You don't listen to me. Proof that you don't listen to me.
What did I say?
You said, you were talking to Dan P. Carter about Bark Market. Yeah. And he said, Lard Room, the Bark Market EP is really good. And you went, I've never heard of that before. Oh, what, the one that I always go on about? He even picked the best song on it. And you went, I've never even heard of that before. You don't listen to me. You don't listen, do you? To what I say.
I'm flattered that you listen to the show, so I'm going to take that. But yeah, sorry, mate. I wasn't aware of it. We had that chat like 2 years ago. I still don't think I've listened to that EP. I really should listen to that.
2 years ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. To be fair, he doesn't listen to me. Everyone, this is an insult to my wonderful tones and opinions that I have, and yet they just go over Remfry's head.
Yeah,
shame that.
Picking the time when I have COVID.
Kick a man when he's down.
Yeah.
Well, that's not. I mean, you didn't have COVID when you said that. So, no. In a lot of ways.
Okay, sure.
All right. Anyway, listen, hey, basically, I've listened to Remfry's voice a lot today, and that's fine because I feel that he'll have a lot to say, as I will, about the album that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at Diaspora. Is it Diaspora? Diaspora.
Diaspora.
I thought it was Dysphoria.
Yeah.
Diaspora.
Diaspora Problems. I actually
Diaspora Problems.
Looked it up. Diaspora is kind of like a population, an area, like
right. Okay.
or a cultural group, for example.
I was not aware of that.
It's a very apt title. Yes.
It is. Yes, Diaspora Problems by Soul Glo or Soul Glue, as you were calling them yesterday. It's not Soul Glue. I'm assuming it's named after the "Just Let Your Soul Glow, Just Let It Shine Through" from Coming to America.
That hadn't occurred to me actually, but it could be. I don't know.
Gotta be. It's spelt the same.
Yeah, well, there you go. It is Glow, isn't it? I keep saying
Soul Glo,
but it is Glow. Yeah, I thought so. Cool.
Yeah, it's got to be Soul. It's got to be Soul Glo. It's got to be named after Soul Glo.
I would have thought so.
Surely.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
The first tick. The first of many reasons why you should fucking love this band.
Oh my
They're
God.
named after something from Coming to America. Maybe. Don't know. But I'm going to say that's why. And it's the fourth studio album from the Philadelphia-based punk rock band. Although punk rock band, it's not really telling the full story here.
No, just one strand.
To be perfectly honest?
Yeah.
Just calling them a punk rock band. I'm doing that to kind of save time. Although by then bringing that up that I'm doing that, it's not really saved any time. But I thought it was worth saying that, yes, they're a punk band, but they are, as you quite rightly say, so much more than that. Just a mere strand of their sound.
They're an extraordinarily multifaceted, dynamic band who have, I think most of the messages and most of the things that they have to say are sort of feral and angry and righteously so, but they do find multiple different ways to carry that message across.
Yeah. Now, I'd heard the name of this band, but I don't think I'd ever listened to them until I got this record sent over to me to review for Metal Hammer. Actually, I had the man himself, the good man, dishing out a multitude of presents. Mr. Jonathan Seltzer, reviews editor at Metal Hammer, went, I think you'll quite like this band. Have a little listen to one of their songs and let me know what you think. And I was like, I think you should send me the album. I think that's what should happen. And then I gave it, if you've got this month's Metal Hammer, you'll have probably seen the review that I gave the album, no spoilers. But not only did I do that, I also did a little piece with Pierce from the band, the vocalist of this band. I spoke to him for, again, it's only a kind of half-page thing in this month's Metal Hammer, but we spoke for about 90 minutes, which normally when you do these things, you speak to somebody for about 15 minutes, you reckon? For about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes if they're really interesting. I spoke for an hour and a half to him.
Wow.
Because I was just like, I just want to talk to this dude. I just want to talk to him. I wish we could have done a fucking full front page feature on them. We spoke for about 90 minutes about all manner of shit. And he is genuinely one of the best, most interesting, most thoughtful, fascinating dudes I've come across in heavy music in ages. I love talking to him. And we talked about so much music. And it was quite apt that we ended up talking about so much music. Because once we got talking about, I was like, it all makes sense now. Where all this stuff comes from, it all makes sense to me now. I feel like I'm sort of skirting around the issue a little, the point a little bit. But
well, I'll get in there a little bit further if you will. I'll pick up your thread. I mean, as a vocalist, Pierce Jordan is a fucking revelation, isn't he? He's fucking incredible. He has plenty to be angry about, and he's going to let people know. I'm not surprised that he talked for an hour and a half or so, because I think the first 2 songs on this album probably have more lyrics and more things to say than most punk bands do on a whole record. His delivery is just so quick. It's amazing the way that he spits out some of these lyrics. The lyrics for Jump or Get Jumped by the Future are up on Genius, the lyric website, and I was trying to follow along with Jordan, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I just got totally and utterly, inextricably lost trying to follow him. And his delivery is, I suppose, one part Denzel Curry, sort of that freneticism, that wide-eyed, like, preacher. I don't know if preacher's right, but you know what I mean. I don't know if this is too far to say that maybe he has some of the technical nous of a Daveed Diggs. Is that too much?
We brought up that I brought up Daveed Diggs to him in this chat, and he was like, whoa. Even
really?
He was like, steady on there.
Okay.
Steady. He was like, I fucking wish. And I was like, I don't think it's a ridiculous thing to say, man. And like anyone who's listened to our podcast over the past couple of years, like I can't really say anything. I have nobody in kind of hip hop that I hold currently. I would say I think Daveed Diggs is my personal favourite MC in hip hop right now.
Same. And I mean, I will say this: even if he isn't matching Daveed Diggs, I can't think of anyone between him and Daveed Diggs at all. Like he's definitely, if he's not joint one, he's a very close number 2. I would say. Yeah. Just absolutely amazing.
There's also another, I think, and forgive me if this seems like what Remfry would call a basic bitch comparison. I don't actually think it is. I think there's a lot. The Bad Brains, you can't escape the Bad Brains comparisons, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think you've got to mention Bad Brains.
Yeah, and that's not because I'm going, oh, they're a punk band with kind of black people in it, ergo they're Bad Brains. Like that's not what I'm saying.
No.
I think Pierce Jordan has the freneticism and the kind of the wide vocal range and the lyrical kind of dexterity of HR from Bad Brains at his best, right? I think definitely. I think Bad Brains are also the first ever, arguably, like for me, if someone said, who are the first ever hardcore band? Bad Brains are the first ever hardcore band. I think, personally. I know there might be people who are like, yeah, but, this and that. I know there's varying degrees of people who think of different stuff. But in terms of, like, me going, narrow it down to one, I think Bad Brains are the first hardcore band. So I don't think comparing Bad Brains to a hardcore band, it could be Every Time I Die, it could be Sick of It All, it could be fucking Touche Amore. I would compare all of them somewhat to Bad Brains because it all links back to the source. What I wouldn't often do is say that those bands match the freneticism of Bad Brains and the kind of the culture clash that Bad Brains brought about as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'd put it in there for Turnstile. I'd put it in there for Let Live. I think those are 2 fairly apt comparative points. I'd say it's a different type of thing, but even Refused, in the Shape of Punk to Come, they have that genre clashing, genre mashing, very, very wide, expansive, like ruleless, like we have no map here. This is like whatever the fuck we feel like doing. And Soul Glo have that. They absolutely have that.
Absolutely. I think that's a brilliantly astute point. I would also say that the way that it is played, not only do you have that sort of anarchic, where are we going to go next? You brilliantly said, like, you know, there is no map kind of thing. We really could pop our head out and appear in any kind of musical landscape of the last sort of 20, 30 years, anything that's been sort of popular in that kind of music. But also the sheer way that this is not only performed but captured as well. I wang on about the energies of albums and albums that sound live and albums that sound like, you know, each member of the band has sat down individually and recorded their parts. I mean, this album is definitely not the latter. I would be absolutely stunned if, you know, I imagine there probably are overdubs here or there. They're very well integrated if they are. But this does feel like capturing the basic, I believe the basic tracks are the band playing live. And the way that this album roars out of the speakers, I think that feeling, when you do capture a band as frenetically exciting and dynamic as Soul Glo in the studio, like this album has, it can be some of the most exciting form of music on the entire planet. It reminds me of stuff like
Rage Against the Machine.
Rage Against the Machine. I mean, specifically, you know, I'd say Let Live, Fake History for me, Glassjaw, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Silence, Blood Brothers, Young Machetes, even to an extent. Those records that you put on in your headphones, you start walking down the street and just everything about your body languages, everything about you completely changes because the music is just completely encompassing every part of your body. And you can only get that through that feeling of a band playing live in a room, and that feeling that you can hear, I don't know, a drumstick being dropped, or someone, one of the technical crew, like speaking over a microphone or something like that. That feeling of it being just so in your face and so loud and so aggressive, and everything turned up to 11. I mean, there's some a lot of the vocals are quite distorted on this record, and I get the feeling that they haven't put distortion on there. That's natural distortion from Pierce Jordan's absolutely revelatory performance, which is pretty incredible, really. And that sort of thing, you can't fake that stuff. You cannot fake it.
No, you can't. And I'm glad you brought up the kind of the forward-thinking nature, the kind of the, not in forward-thinking because we already talked about that, but the contemporary nature of it. Because I think the great thing about Soul Glo, now, when I first put this on, I was like, oh shit, it's Bad Brains, it's Minor Threat, it's early Beastie Boys, it's Dead Kennedys, like there's loads of that. And, you know, people will know that those are bands who I fucking love that shit. Like, I became utterly obsessed with all of that shit, like, you know, 20 years ago or whatever. Yeah. Like, when that shit is done well, I think we've had conversations on here before where we've on Riot Act on our weekly show, we've talked about like MDC or something, and I'm like, when that is done right, when that shit is done right, that type of music, when they fucking nailed 80s hardcore in the 80s, it's so great a sound. But I think they do that. I think there is a real sense of the rawness, the live element, you know, the kind of the spontaneity, the absolutely unhinged performances of everyone who are just like, one, take the shit out of this. Do you know what I mean? It feels like one of those records where it's like, right, psych yourself up, smash a Red Bull or whatever you need to do to get yourself get going, and one, take the fucking shit out of this, because it is so, it's so, you can't imagine they could have the energy to do it again after this. And when that shit's done well, I love it. But also, what I love about this record is it's classic sounding, but it's contemporary sounding, but it's also classic sounding from even before that. So for me, it kind of sits on this seesaw where 80s hardcore sits in the middle, modern experimental hip hop, modern kind of post-hardcore, little bits of some of the more forward-thinking metal bands creep in, but then also they go back as well to kind of garage rock, psychedelic rock. glam. I mean, there's a horn section on here, which is like the Stooges. Amazing. Like you just go, well, there's the Stooges cropping up.
Yeah,
like twice. Amazing. There's kind of funk. There's proper like Stax era 70s funk on there, and like the not the disco chart shit, like the proper raw Sly and the Family Stone, like that is on here as well. So you're going back prior to the kind of the birth of punk rock. I would say, you know, like shit like the New York Dolls, I can hear a bit of here and there.
Yeah.
When it sort of like drops out and gets a bit more slinky, but it's always fucking angry. Like even when it's danceable, it's really angry. And then you go forward, and you know, I mean, when I spoke to Pierce, we were talking about like how much he loves System of a Down, and although this doesn't sound like System of a Down, I can hear the, you know, like that first System of a Down album came out, and it was just like a fucking like a killer whale just gobbling up everything in the ocean.
I think the energy is similar, isn't it?
Yeah,
even if they don't sound the same, the energy comes from the same place.
and we'll take punk rock, we'll take heavy metal, we'll take alternative rock, we'll take Armenian folk music, we'll take kind of broken beats and almost kind of and I guess like early gangster rap, and we'll kind of mix it all together in this weird fucking jaunty, like, is it partly political, sexual, like oblique weird thing, and it can be all, and it can just be like, oh, it just sounds like System of a Down. So, you know, I can hear that as well. I mean, you know, the trap metal thing, I think there's a bit of like, we've not always been particularly like, hooray, trap metal. I think the idea of it, as we've said a bunch of times, is good. But when it comes to horror and Scarlxrd and people like that, you know, there's not many of them that I particularly want to listen to. Backwash, if she counts, would be one that I would say I do. Probably like the main one that I do. But this has a kind of punk rock. It's like a kind of punk rock version of trap metal. It's like trap punk.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has moments like that, which are awesome, and they're awesome because they're moments. They're awesome because that's not like the entire thing. It's not the entire package. There's so much going on in this record. It's really difficult to know where to start, to be honest. I mean, I suppose before we get into individual songs and stuff, just to say, we talked about Pierce Jordan a lot, Vocalist, who is absolutely phenomenal. I read a review just prior, probably shouldn't have done, but I read a review just prior to us recording this, which talked about him a lot, and he does make an incredible stamp on this record. But I think the other three members of the band are absolutely like, they're not like, oh, a solid backing. They are fucking amazing. To sit down and listen to the fucking crazy shit that Gigi Guerra is playing on Coming Correct is Cheaper. The absolutely mad bass.
That is insane, that song.
It's absolutely incredible.
And that has that, remember that, woo! Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
That loads of hip-hop artists were using in the 80s. It's got that, which ended up being used on fucking Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini by Timmy Mallet. I never thought I'd hear a like brutal punk rock song that also used a sample which was used in Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. Yeah. But it does that, and then it goes into this really jaunty kind of punk rock. It's kind of like Scratch the Surface era Sick of It All. And you go, who fucking does that? The Bronx and Tone Loc smashing head first into each other. It's an insane idea for music. An insane idea. And yet it just feels really right. It's fucking awesome.
It works so well. I mean, I think it says an awful lot about this record that there are so many points where it could and probably should all break apart. And it does feel like, again, because of that live energy that it has to it, it does feel like it's always on the brink of falling apart, but never quite does. And all of these switches from different genres, all of these ways that it manages to effortlessly flip between these different sounds and yet sound cohesive. I think this record takes a risk every 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And most albums don't take a single risk once, you know? Like, most albums are just safe, cruised all the time. This album is just, I mean, we should say it's 39 minutes and 14 seconds long. it feels
As long as that Danzig album.
yeah.
It's funny because Danzig was saying, "Oh, there's no revolutionary punk bands anymore." It's like, mate.
Yes. If you listen to the Danzig special, this is the band I was talking about. Yeah, I mean,
Danzig special. It's Broken Records, by the way.
Broken
We
Records.
didn't do a classic album.
Classic album.
Danzig sings Elvis.
There is so. I mean, weirdly, I almost don't want to say that it feels short because there's so many ideas in it. It is a relatively short record, but there's so many ideas in it. It feels jam-packed.
It's short for what it is. It's short for what you get.
Yes, you feel exhausted at the end of it. Not in a bad way necessarily, but you do feel exhausted at the end of it because it's like, fucking hell, that was a lot that was just thrown at me in those 40 minutes. But it all works. It's cohesive. It's not elements thrown at a wall hoping that stuff will stick. It's very... I think there's a beautiful distinction between things just sounding absolutely chaotic and things that are actually structured well. And Soul Glo managed to do both, which is incredible. Like, it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And they do it so well on this record.
Yeah, I think this comes from a genuine understanding of all of those genres. Do you know what I mean? I think
Absolutely.
that's why when you look at, like, I don't know, let's fucking cuss someone out. You look at Machine Gun Kelly covering Misery Business by Paramore and it just sounds wank. And you're like, it's because you don't know about this stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe he does. Maybe I'm sure Machine Gun Kelly's got a bunch of fucking Blink-182 albums or whatever. Like, I know he has. But still, he's not really properly ingrained himself in the culture of even fucking pop punk, really. I know he says he has because he's got Enema of the State and he hangs out with fucking Travis Barker, but it's not the same. Whereas this is a bunch of people, clearly, who have grown up obsessing over music, listening to fucking whatever they can get their hands on, who are deeply, deeply ingrained in all of those things, know how to pull it off, know why those things work. Like, they know why and how hip hop works, but they also know how metal works. They know how punk rock works. They know how kind of garage rock works. Do you know what? They know it's not like... I mean, there's no one that I particularly want to cuss at, but I do think, like, when I talk about the trap metal stuff sometimes, I do sort of go, I'm not sure that just putting a bit of distorted guitar over the top of your kind of trap song is always going to be enough. Like, it's not enough for me, put it that way. It's not enough for me, right? And just by going like, oh, no one's done this before, so it's new and it's brilliant. Well, that's not enough. Like, it's not enough for me. And this is why it's not enough. Again, it's another example of why that is not enough. Because they could be anything, this band. Like, when I said at the start they're a punk band, if they decided that they wanted to fucking bin off all the guitars, get rid of all the guitars, we're just going to be a hip-hop act, they could do it. If they decided they just wanted to be a straight down the line, straight ahead punk band, they'd be the best fucking straight ahead punk band on the planet at the moment. And I think that is, there's a few bands at the minute. We've spoken again about Turnstile, who are really, really brilliantly adept at turning their hand to all of those things and doing them properly. And it's because, they fucking, all of them listen to that stuff. All of them are hugely ingrained in the stuff that they're covering.
Yeah.
I think Turnstile's kind of one of the best comparative points for this, because it's like they're kind of the yin and the yang of each other, I think. Because whereas Turnstile have been hugely embraced by the mainstream and have got songs, massive songs that people are now gravitating to in a way that we haven't seen in this type of music kind of ever.
In a long time.
And we've spoken about, like, doing fucking 5,000 people over a couple of nights in London. Amazing. And, playing on the fucking Seth, and he said Seth, what's his name? Not Seth Rogen, Seth Meyers show.
Yep.
And doing all these things. You're just like, this is absolutely crazy the way that this band are connected. But they've connected because they've written really good songs. Do you know what I mean? They've written really good songs, and those songs are almost, they're not abrasive and aggressive in the same way as Soul Glo have done the same thing, but they've gone, let's up the freneticism, let's up the anger, let's up, like, they are the kind of rabid uncontrollable, wild, untamed live. Not that Turnstile aren't live. Turnstile I think sound obviously really great live. Yeah. But the kind of one shot, one take, shit or bust version of what Turnstile do. And I think, this ain't going to be I very much doubt we'll see these, them coming to London and doing 5,000 cap room or anything like anytime soon. But if you're into that idea and you like heavy, aggressive, fast-paced, frenetic hardcore, I cannot for the life of me imagine how you won't fucking lap this shit up in seconds.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, the commercial appeal of Turnstile is obviously far greater than Soul Glo's commercial appeal, but I think that's actually a very interesting comparison. Turnstile hadn't really come up in my... I wrote a massive list of bands that this does remind me of, but Turnstile didn't really come up, but you're kind of right in a way that they're the yin and yang, because Turnstile are there.
They're both amazing, obviously.
Both amazing. Oh, yeah. But... Turnstile they're on the more melodic kind of edge, and I guess, it's just like the dirtier, angrier brother almost to it, or something like that.
I think they are on par with Turnstile. Like, as a band, this album is as good as Glow On. It's completely different, but everything that's brilliant about Glow On is also brilliant about this, other than it won't get played on, I bought the bloody WWE wrestling game the other day on my brand new PlayStation 5. Thank you very much. And Turnstile are on it. Turnstile are on the soundtrack. Another thing they've... and I don't see that happening to Soul Glo at this point with this record, because it's too much, isn't it? It's going to be too much for a lot of people. But they're fucking... But that doesn't mean it's not just as good, musically, just as fucking inventive and inspiring. It just is. They're fucking awesome.
I think it's a phenomenal record, and as good as Glow On, I'm not totally dead set against it. I think I'm going to reserve judgment. I want to see Soul Glo live. I want to see Soul Glo live, and I'm.
Oh mate, so do I. Fuck me. Jesus, I really do.
I'm confident they will be brilliant live. So it's kind of 95% in the bag, but it's just kind of just to make sure sort of thing. But yes, I'm convinced that they are fucking incredible, and the level of creativity, the amount of stuff that they bring in. The reason why Turnstile is such a great comparison is because both bands take hardcore punk as a sort of foundation, but bring in so many other genres and so many different ideas, and sort of manage to integrate them in a really streamlined way. I think Soul Glo, to be honest, I don't think this makes them a better band or a worse band, but I think in terms of the amount of actual stuff, the amount of influence that are poured in, I think Turnstile have a lot, but Soul Glo have way more. It seems so constant that things are coming in and out, and that's kind of how you write original music now. I don't know if I could honestly stick my flag in this and go, this is truly original music, because I think there's too many other things that are sort of like it, but it does feel like it's mixing so much up that they have a very fresh take on it. Very fresh.
Definitely. I get what you're saying, because the reference points are so clear. I think the reference points are really fucking clear on Turnstile as well. I think it's very difficult to hear something and go, holy shit, I've never heard anything that sounds anything like this before. Absolutely. It's just how fresh can you make it? How unusual can you make it? And ultimately, most importantly, how good are the songs? How good are the songs on this record? And the thing is, it might have been really, like you say about it being cohesive. It would have been me and you could get together and go, we're going to do a punk band, but we're going to put in poker, and we're going to put in swing music and black metal, and we're just going to do one, and we're going to do hip hop, and every kind of 5 seconds we're going to change between one of those 5 genres, and everyone will go, oh my god, I've never heard anything like this before. The songs would probably be terrible, because if if our previous bands are anything to go by.
I'm never sending you my demos ever again.
But you know, like if you can't do it right and you can't write songs with it, you're fucked basically. It doesn't matter how many fucking influences you have. You can be influenced by 30,000 bands, and if you can't fucking channel what's the kind of the essence of what's great about them, don't bother. Like there's no fucking point. Whereas Soul Glo, you know, there are hooks all over this fucking record. I mean, just for a few, like, who gonna beat my ass? Who gonna beat my ass? Over and over again is fuck. And that's the first song. And you got this kind of driving two-step hardcore that twists and turns and changes and develops. And that's the first song. And I was like, this is such a great hook.
It's amazing that.
And I was like, it has to. This is. And I was just from that. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be like a really, really, really great record, and it is. It is. It's just fucking, you know, there's so much shit going on. I mean, there's a few songs towards the end. Again, weirdly, I feel like when I first listened to it, I was like, oh my god, the start's amazing, and it is. But towards the end, like the last song is called Spiritual Level of Gang Shit, which starts with this spoken word thing that manages to remind me of Mos Def and the Melvins at the same time. And that's just the first half of it. It's really fucking cool. It's like a kind of alternative punk hip hop song that nails both of those styles perfectly. And about halfway through, it just turns into this fast, frenetic punk rock banger, which we have heard a bunch of times. The scream that Pierce does before that horn section comes in is incredible. And when the horn section comes in, it sounds like Rocket from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you just think, like, I thought I'd heard it all when it got to end this record. But you have just delivered a Melvins, Mos Def, Sick of It All, Rocket from the Crypt mashup.
Yeah. That's actually the second time they
Mic
used the
drop.
horns.
Like,
yeah,
what the
absolutely.
Fuck?
Yeah, that's actually the second time they used the horns on the record, but they do use them in quite a different way, which I think says a lot as well. You know, they're really tuning into all corners of their like musical taste for this record. To be honest with you, I was sitting down and like thinking really, really, really hard about if I had any criticisms with this record. And I don't really. But when I thought about it really hard, there was one teeny tiny minor one which came up, which isn't even really a criticism per se. It's more a maybe it would be cool if they explored this in the future.
Post rock.
So, yeah, absolutely. I think they should become a post rock.
I need a 12-minute long song.
The first 30 seconds of 5 Years in My Family.
Yeah.
It's this really cool, trippy, almost 80s retro thing. I'm not a billion miles away from the Drive soundtrack, the kind of thing. And a couple of times when I listened to the album, after 30 seconds, it then goes into a more usual Soul Glo hardcore punk thing. And that's fine, because it's really good. But I couldn't help but wonder what Soul Glo writing that song would sound like. Like that, what would that sound like? And I'm curious to know. And it doesn't matter at all.
Greedy fuck. More. This only reminds me of 70 bands. I want it to remind me of 120.
I was literally about to say, for this album, it doesn't matter. This album has more than enough, and I am. You know, you are most of the main emotion this album utilizes is anger, it feels, but it is come at it from lots of different angles, so that's okay. That's fine for this record. I'm curious, I'm curious to know where they're going to go. Are they going to release loads of albums along the same lines as this, which I don't think they're going to do at all? And if they're not going to do that, where are they going to go? And I'm curious about that. But like I say, that's the closest that I can get to a criticism. And it isn't even really a criticism. It's more, I wonder where that will go next. This is a special record from a band who, if they continue on this form, will become a very special band. I'm not quite at the point where... I did go back and listen to their other releases, and I have to say their previous record is absolutely brilliant. And the other two I thought were very, very good. I think they probably are a special band. I'm going to wait for the next one to come along before I plant my flag firmly.
Well,
in
I think
that
it's
one.
I think it's worth saying. This is 4 albums in, so they should really have a at 4 albums in. I mean, again, this is not a criticism, but this is not a debut. So this is the first time I think where this album's coming out on Epitaph. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which is a big deal as well.
Yep.
It's their first album on Epitaph, and they've had a long-standing relationship with Jeremy Bolm from Touche Amore, who's put a load of their records out, and that's cool. And you can. So I'd imagine, but this does feel like their relationship of command, I guess.
Well, I will say this. You're absolutely right. It is their 4th album, but I tell you what, it feels like a debut because it has the energy and the freneticism of a debut. And that's not to discount their earlier work, because actually some of it I thought was really fucking cool. And I'm not trying to insinuate that, you should check out this album but forget the rest, because there's some wicked stuff on those previous releases. But I don't know, just something in the sheer freneticism. I keep saying freneticism, but it is just frantic and just utterly chomping at the bit the whole way through. There is something about the passion in it which screams debut album to me, even though technically it isn't. I mean, they've been around. They've only been around since 2016, so relatively new band.
They've just got I think they've just got together and got a load of music out straight away. Exactly. And I mean, I think the other stuff that they've put out is good as well. Yeah. I don't think it's as good as this personally. Nope. Sometimes it does take a band who just comes straight out the gates and go, let's go, to kind of maybe takes some bands longer than others to find their feet. I mean, when I go back and I think of a lot of the bands from kind of hardcore that I enjoyed a lot when I was growing up, I think of a band like Grade, like the first Grade, like when you get to Under the Radar by Grade, oh my god, fucking incredible. But like the first couple of Grade albums, particularly the first one, or Minus, like the album that came out before Jesus Christ Bobby, first couple of Boy Sets Fire albums, they're not great, you know what I mean? Like they're just they don't have a lot of money. They recorded on smaller labels. They recorded in different circumstances. Yeah, it does take a little while for those bands to kind of really, really get going.
That first Let Live record, it isn't terrible, but it's
you don't ever really go to there, do you?
Not really, no. I don't actually think the Diaspora Problems is the step up from the previous material that it is in that sense, but it's definitely the best thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean that was my point, was going to be like they came out the gate kind of much better than a lot of bands who I fucking love. Do you know what I mean? Like when I'm talking about Grade and Boy Sets Fire, Refused, like the first 3 Refused albums.
Yeah.
Like
that first one's
not worth anything really until you get to Songs to Fan the Flames, and even then, like you probably couldn't have seen the jump. No. Really. I think this is absolutely fucking exceptional, and it does. I mean, the last time we reviewed a very, very abrasive heavy record, we spoke about Vane FM, and I said the thing that I like about heavy music is to be really kind of shocked and just like wowed and steamrolled by a band in the best possible way, and this record absolutely does that, probably more so than the Vane album. I had said to a few people before I'd heard the Gang of Youths album, like, I think I've got the fucking album of the year in my hands at the moment because it was that good. I think there's 2 albums right out in front of the rest for me this year, and it's Gang of Youths and this is fucking awesome. This record, it's fucking awesome. They're both, again, completely different records. It couldn't be more different, but both of them are essential listening, proper, like borderline perfect modern classics.
I agree with all of that. I'm actually incredibly confident in saying that this will be a future classic album. I think for a certain scene, obviously, I'm not saying this is going to be like the Black Album or anything. Yeah, but I mean,
we again, like talking about Gang of Youths and being like, well, they'll probably be playing the O2 by the end of this run. That's not going to happen with Soul Glo, but you fucking need this shit. If you like punk rock and hard, if you're one of those people who look at Fever 333 as I do and go, just fucking get the Chariot and Let Live back together for God's sake. Stop wasting your time doing this wank. Yeah. Then just listen to this instead.
Yeah, I mean this pisses all over Fever 333.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've been much kinder to them in the past than you have. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like this again. Like Backwash. I think this pisses on that whole scene. I think, like in terms of anything that's kind of trap metal, or I mean, this is completely different. To be fair, this is much more punk rock, and it's much more kind of geared towards hardcore than. And they dip into hip hop quite a bit, but not. It's not the kind of base for it like Horror. I discovered sort of thought of as a punk band.
Yeah.
When I listened to Horror, I mean, again, I think when we reviewed Horror, and I was like, it is better, but still, like I had this in the back of my mind, and I was like, I mean,
that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, I think Horror are a good comparison point, but a good comparison point from the point of view of like. Horror are a decent version of it, but nothing like meh. And then Soul Glo is what you can actually do with it. Like, I mean, I thought that Horror record was a vast improvement on what Horror have done in the past. Certainly, the best.
But they are
moments,
then a million miles away from writing a song like "Fucked Up If True."
I was going to say the best moments on that Horror record don't come within a mile of the worst moments on this record.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. They are, without any question, a far better band. And again, I'm not trying to shit on Horror. I'm not trying to shit on, Scarlxrd or fucking any of those dudes or Mimi Barks.
I think it's...
I'm trying to shit on Mimi Barks.
I think, like... Really, it's just like those bands have gained a certain level of popularity, and really, it's just like if there's any justice, Soul Glo should have bare minimum the same amount of popularity that those bands have, if not more. And I would love to see that happen. Whether it will or not, I don't know. Just have to see, I suppose.
Yeah, we will see. Knowing what the world's like, probably won't happen. But, fucking wankers, aren't they? Fuck you, the world, you idiots. Yeah. Fuck you, the world. Yeah. Soul Glo, Dysphoria Problems is out on Friday the 25th of March. Whenever this, I don't know when this podcast is going to get put out, but Friday the 25th of March it is out, and it should be the first thing you listen to when you wake up on Friday the 25th of March.
It really should. Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to come around and give you a noogie.
Yeah. I'm
well,
self-isolating.
you're not allowed out, are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not allowed to do that.
All right. I don't know if I can be bothered either, so we'll just give yourself a noogie for not doing it. Just do it. Just listen to it, you prick. Anyway, thanks very much for listening to our review. Go and listen to this record. It's fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. See you next time. We're going to be talking about the new album from Placebo, or as I'm sure, because Remfry can't pronounce any band's name. How do you say Placebo? Do you say Placebois?
No, I say Placebo.
Oh, you do say it right. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm glad. Just because you've been calling them Soul Glue for ages. So I'm like,
fuck off.
probably,
Yeah. I've got COVID. Shut up.
Placebois. The new album from Placebois.
Placebois.
That's quite a good name, actually. Placebois.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, sweet. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We're going to be talking about Placebo. That'll be out very, very soon. And we'll be back on Friday talking about, there's quite a lot of stuff that we'll be talking about on Friday. Weezer, Charlie XCX, Animals as Leaders.
Yeah.
All that. Anyway, bye.